to learn to live the off-grid lifestyle and to be inspired to live your dreams, click subscribe so you don't miss anything. Click the bell notification. It's all free. So I'm canning the chickens that I butchered yesterday. I switched out propane tanks, and for some reason, when I turn on both burners, the flame reduces too much and it doesn't heat up hot enough. So I had to use the other stove also, so it's okay. I'll have to figure out what's wrong with it later. Kind of brings me to yesterday. Got another visit from the sheriff. I've told you in the past that I've gotten several visits from the sheriff. And this time he asked me to make a video, and I even asked him if he wanted to make a video with me because, you know, maybe it would have more weight if he was on it. He said no, he's not interested in getting famous. But I got to give you some history to make my point on this video. Subscribers in the past have called different law enforcement agencies on me ever since we've moved here. Probably 3 or 4 months after we moved here, I got a visit from the code enforcement officer from the county. He got a report from a fellow in California. Now, I'm trying to remember the order and sequences of everything, but so if I get some of the details wrong, I apologize. But he got a report that I was dumping sewage into the little creek down here. It's not even really a creek, it's kind of a storm runoff. At the time, we were living in the camper trying to build a tiny house. We just gotten the floor down on the tiny house, as a matter of fact. Of course, when I reported this, a lot of people said, shouldn't let anybody on the property. They have to have a warrant and all kinds of stuff. But everything I've done with the law enforcement here has paid huge for me. He asked if he could look at the creek to see if I was dumping any sewage. We walk on down here. I'm gonna try to get down here so you can see what I'm talking about. He looked up and down the creek, and obviously there was no signs of me dumping waste down into the creek. So he asked me, well, what are you doing with your waste? Well, at the time we were incinerating it. We were using wood, firewood, and we'd build a huge fire in a barrel and we would incinerate it. We compost it now. It's much easier, a lot less work to compost, completely within the law. So here's the creek bed that I was reportedly dumping into, and you can see there's no water in it. So if I were dumping, it would be easy to see. Now, it just rained last night, pretty hard actually, and you can see there's no water in this creek. He said, okay, no problem, and he was really excited, and he looked at the little tiny house and he said, oh wow, that's neat what you're doing there. He says, and you don't even have to worry about code enforcement on that because it's on a trailer. Well, at the time I was building it, I was going under the impression that I was building it under the size requirements. It's got to be less than 200 square feet and you don't have to have code enforcement. Well, so it's under 200 square feet and it's on a trailer. So I was definitely in the clear. And I said, oh, okay, great. I said, I was going under the 200 square feet requirement. He says, well, you can do that too, but trailer, they don't want you to come on the property to measure it. Leave the tongue on it and you're good. That complaint came from California. Well, I made the video about it. Well, sometime later, I got a visit from the sheriff. Now, in this particular case, the sheriff just came by for a visit. He happens to live down the road from where I live. He just wanted to introduce himself. It was coming up on election time. Seemed like a nice guy and very friendly. So a little bit later, he comes back and he says, I got a phone call on you. And he says, do you have a YouTube channel? I said, yeah, sure, I do. He says, well, somebody in Tennessee said that you were in violation of codes for building a tiny house. And he says, I need to see your permit. And I said, well, I don't need a permit. And I couldn't understand why he was here. The code officer had already taken care of everything. And he says, well, of course you need a permit. I said, no, sir. I just talked to the code officer not that long ago. And he says, if it's on a trailer frame, I don't need any permits. He took my word for it. And I said, I can go down, you give the card that he gave me, and you can call him. He said, no, don't worry about it. I know who it is. So next day he returns and apologizes and talks about my YouTube channel. So of course I make another video about it. I identified that the sheriff thought it was okay, and that the code officer thought it was okay, and I even said, you know, the guy from Tennessee called and complained. And well, apparently the guy from Tennessee didn't learn his lesson, because a while later he called back to the sheriff's office and he was upset with the sheriff's office. And he says, You went over there and then you told him that I called and now I want to file a harassment charge because he's got me on YouTube, and he was just all irate. So the sheriff comes back and he informs me that he called the sheriff in the county that he lived in Tennessee, to have him arrested for false claims and all that kind of stuff. And so I even looked this up because I had other subscribers saying, oh, that's baloney, that's no way that's true. Of course it's true. You cannot utilize police resources and their time just wasting it making false claims on things. So he called once, it was dismissed, it was investigated and dismissed, and then he called again and complained, said you didn't do anything. So they just got him on false claims or something to that effect. Well, the sheriff told me to make a video about it. He said, I'd really like for you to make a video about this. He says, I'm going to start watching your videos. I've been watching them, and I've subscribed to your channel. I really like what you do. It's kind of neat that a local guy is on YouTube and the whole thing. Well, it all kind of died down for the longest time after that video. But then every now and then, you know, you get this little ding thing. The sheriff showed up one time and said that someone called the state, the EPA, for cutting down trees. But I don't even know what came of that. He didn't make a big deal about it, and I haven't followed up on it. I've just kind of given up on the whole thing, thinking, okay, my videos have worked, nobody's complaining anymore. Now, after I made that last video, I got a lot of comments. A lot of people thought it was neat that the sheriff was on my side and it wasn't harassing me, and that we've kind of become friends. I don't know if friends is the right word, but he honks now as he drives by. But one of the comments I get regularly is, it's my fault that this is happening. If I didn't put myself out on social media, this wouldn't be happening. I suppose that's true. If I wasn't on YouTube, no one would know who I was and they wouldn't call the police on me. You're absolutely right. But aren't you victim blaming by saying that? You're saying that I shouldn't be on YouTube making money, my job, because someone might call the police on me. They're breaking the law, not me. I'm well within the law. Everything I've done is within the law. They are breaking the law, but it's my fault that they're breaking the law. Isn't that kind of like blaming the gal that's got to go to work at nighttime to take care of her kids, so she doesn't have a car, and she's walking home and that guy assaults her? It's not her fault that she had to work. And I know some of you are going to say, well, she should have gotten a daytime job. That's all ridiculous. Criminals are criminals. Criminals need to pay for their crime. The victim is never to blame. Well, here's what I think. There are so many haters out there that they try to do whatever they can to stop you. When you're on YouTube and you really get down into the nuts and bolts of things, you know, we talk about trolls. These guys aren't trolls. These guys are haters, and they won't give up on you. They become obsessed and they start stalking you. And there are people who know exactly where I live, even though I've never given out the location. It's not hard to find me, I guess, but it's ridiculous that people will spend so much time trying to figure it out. I got an email from a guy, and he went through every step that he took to find me. So, I mean, these people are just obsessed. They're crazy. There's no other word for it. They're just crazy. They get on YouTube, they have no life. Their mom sticks them down in the basement when they're 60 years old. Said, okay, son, you've been in our house long enough. You're gonna have to go and get out of my hair. The majority of the people who follow me are 50 and older. Just yesterday, coincidentally, while I was butchering the chickens, the sheriff shows up and he says, aha, caught you in the act. I said, yeah, I'm butchering chickens. You kind of got me at a bad time, and my hands are covered in, you know, the chicken stuff. I said, I would shake your hand. No, don't shake my hand, not this time. He says, I've been watching your videos. It's really cool what you're doing with these chickens. And, you know, just being friendly. I mean, I'm sure you've seen chickens before. He says, you know why I'm here, don't you? Oh, I said, well, I'm sure you got another complaint. He says, yeah, about you killing those chickens. So now I'm abusing chickens. And I knew it was going to happen because we're getting a lot of comments. And other YouTubers are actually making videos about how terrible it is that I'm butchering my own chickens. So, you know, of course, we all assume that they think that you have to go to the store and buy chicken where they make it. They don't grow chickens, they make chicken. Now, this person is in Mississippi. And I find it interesting that the states that you would think wouldn't be calling on this stuff are the states that are calling on this stuff. You know, California, when somebody said California called, it was like, yeah, Yeah, I can understand that. They got a lot of codes out there and code enforcement. So they would probably think that I'm not following code. But when it became Tennessee, it was like, well, really? Tennessee? That's odd. You just didn't think that because, you know, in Tennessee, they actually live off grid. Tennessee is easier to live off grid than it is in Missouri. It is the #1 state to live off grid. Well, now I'm feeling the same way about Mississippi. I thought, wow, Mississippi. It's just strange. Again, the sheriff has informed me that, of course, called the sheriff in his county, this guy's county, and he said he's going to try to, you know, have him arrested as well. He says the sheriff in that county isn't cooperating quite as well as the sheriff did in Tennessee, but not to worry, that he will continue to deal with these situations as they come on. He says he's gotten a few other complaints, but they seem pretty frivolous. They didn't know the location where I was living, didn't know my name. It's just a guy in your county. But he said this guy was really angry, just hated me. He said everything, you know, every cuss word in the book that you could think of. The sheriff asked me to make another video just to throw it out there that he would advise that you don't call him on claims that you really don't know what's going on. You don't know the laws in this state, you don't know the laws in this county, and if you're making false claims, he is going to try to come after you. He just isn't going to waste time dealing with coming out here talking to me all the time, harassing me. A voter, his voter. At least he hopes I'm his voter, right? I hope I can inspire you to overcome adversity when you're living your dream. Thanks for watching.